It is. Whenever you're ready.
Huh? Oh, well, it's not 5 past yet, is it? Well, it is 7 o'clock, so can I welcome you all to the March meeting of the Finance, Employment and Services Committee? Are there any apologies? I think there's just Andy's and Brian's.
Yep.
Are there any declarations of interest? No. Item 4, the minutes of the meeting held on the 4th of February. Would someone like to move
I'll
them?
move them, Chair.
Are there any comments on them? Please seconded. Those in favour? No comment? No? No? Item 5, public forum. There's no members of the public here. Item 6, exclusion of the public, which just relates to the last item, which is item 15, which is to do with a rental property. So when we get to that item, we'll move standing orders and turn off the live streaming. Yeah. Item 7, financial update.
Has anyone got any questions on the summary or the details? No. There is just one thing that I would like to bring to your attention. If you have a look at the balance sheet, obviously that's item 7C. The current year fund has a value of around 30-odd thousand. Well, it does now anyway. As of today, it's £32,118. Now, given that we have had the last instalment of the precept, and normally we don't actually get the precept for next year until the second week in May, we're looking like we may have possibly a bit of cash flow issues. So I have looked into how much we spent last year during this time, taking out any one-off things that were in there. And the net spend was from February to I think it was the 10th of May when we got the precept, was £254,380.76. Now, we do have, obviously the current year fund is not reflecting on what's actually in the bank, because obviously in the bank there are some reserves in there that we have to have available. So the amount that's actually in the bank that we can transfer for payments is around £200,000. So it's looking like we may have a shortfall. Now, I would suggest taking money from the 32-day notice account, which is at Lloyd's, given that that is the worst interest rate of all from all the three savings accounts. But obviously we need to give the 32 days notice. So I'm just making you aware that we may need to take some funds out of that account in order just to tide us over until we get the first instalment of the precept.
Has anyone any comments to that?
So again, what is in that?
Okay, so in the balance sheet you have you seen it? Oh, okay, yeah. But that is if you look at the the back page of your income and expenditure, that's basically the net amount left for this year. So that's based on this year's budgets and actual income received and money spent. But obviously that is not reflecting on what we've actually got in the bank available. Right. Okay.
Is anybody going to move anything? Because if you are moving something, I want to add something to it, but I don't want to add something to it till someone's moved it. Right, I want to add to it that you will all recall we used to be paid annually in one payment, and we got it by May for the whole year. And Pendle said they were struggling doing that, and they asked us if they could pay in 4 equal quarterly payments. But it was 4 equally payments throughout the year up front, not in arrears. And I want to ask Gina to write to Pendle and say, why have they moved it back from the 1st of April? Because up front, if they're going to pay us 4 quarterly payments throughout the year, we should get it on the 1st of April, not halfway through May. So they've actually moved us on to 4 equal payments instead of a lump sum, and they've moved it back half a quarter by moving it to middle of May from 1st of April.
The main one is for quarter. Not the first payment.
It is, yes,
Yes,
it's the first payment
first
of
quarter
next year,
payment.
of next
Yeah, for
financial
next year.
year, because that starts on 1st of April.
So it covers from April to
Yeah.
end of.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but they said 4 equal payments up front, didn't they? They said you'll get the first payment at the beginning of the first quarter, the second payment at the beginning of the second quarter, etc. And I want to ask Gina to email them and ask them why that is not being done. If someone will approve that being added to it. Because usually we used to get all the money in May for the whole year.
Bearing in mind that obviously they're not sending that money to us, but they are actually investing what they have with public sector deposit fund. So they're getting interest on our money, basically. Whereas we could be doing that and we could earn a lot more interest.
So do we not have a say in moving it back?
I don't think they're in a position to be able to do that.
So they
give us that money all at
they
once.
make that decision based
Yes,
on
they've done it for their cash flow purposes.
They used to be able to do it because they had a reserve pot which enabled them to do it, but they have robbed the reserve pot. The pot doesn't exist anymore, they've used it. That's the nuts and bolts of it. Well, I think they're being unfair because we will have to pay our business rates during that period. Part of our
April, yeah.
we'll have to pay a payment of our business rates during that period, yet they haven't paid us the money to pay them. Yeah. I don't think they'll do anything, but I think we ought to stress. I think we ought to push the point right up under the nose for them.
It obviously won't just affect us. Presumably, it will affect all
Yes.
parishes and
Yeah.
to a greater or lesser extent.
Yeah.
I think.
And the less of a reserve pot you've got, the more you're in trouble.
And obviously we had this situation last year, but we had enough to cover. Obviously we've spent more this year. Well, everything's increased. So yeah. Basically, yeah.
I mean, basically, our precept lasts us from 1st of April to 31st of March, but we don't get any money to continue us past 31st of March until middle of May, which is not on. So all those in favour? Thank you. are we accepting all three of the things as well? A, B and C? Right. Okay,
Have we got a proposer and seconder for them?
yeah. Corporate risk register. Wow.
Yeah, unfortunately, it's that time of year again. Again, obviously, any changes I've highlighted in the funny purple colour that hasn't come out this time properly. But I don't know if you've had a chance to have a look at the amendments that I've made. In some cases, I have actually increased the risk. One being the one to do with equipment damage and antisocial behaviour in playgrounds. Or no, it's graffiti. Basically, we've spent that much money on graffiti removal this year. It's just inevitable that. So I think the likelihood I up that, so it actually increased the risk. Obviously, I have put certain things about, obviously, with the devolution and the change in government. I think I also increase the risk there of legislative changes because they are inevitable.
That is entirely out of our hands.
Yeah.
Yes, but obviously
Because we think
the likelihood of us getting a lot of legislative changes is quite high.
Yeah.
And we think, you know, we're struggling getting money from Nelson, getting it from Preston stroke, Blackburn stroke, wherever, maybe even more difficult. And I suspect that 10 years from now, or probably less than 10 years from now, Colne Town Council will have to, or will have had to, hire more people to do more work that has been undertaken by Pendle.
Yeah.
At the moment, you're just taking part the grass cutting in Elkingcoats. That's Pendle's direct workshop, whatever they call it, does that for us. Well, if that transfers to somewhere else, you know, I'm not saying it is a solution, but it may be a solution to go back to the old system of we have our own mower and men and park keeper. The mind boggles, but
Yeah.
we're going to be hit with lots of consequential things that we've no idea what they are coming down the line, just because the lines of communication will be much harder.
The grass cutting is a difficult one because it's what you do with the staff in the winter and things like that, isn't it? Because you don't need them. That's why Pendle used to use such a lot of temporary staff. Yeah. Or contracted from other places. Yeah. What I haven't got my head round yet, and there is risk to it. I haven't really got my head fully round whether I think that there would be less risk or more risk when we go with Blackburn or whoever Because the way I think we've been treated by the current district council over the last few years, I don't think we can get treated much worse. So things might even get better. I don't know.
I just think the amount of people we can make representation to who are friendly will
Yes.
be diluted
Mhm.
by a fifth if there are 5 boroughs, but it might not be 5, but the number of representatives, now Colne's got however many representatives on Pendle, representatives on the new super council will be even less.
Yeah.
We'll have a mayor sat there doing all these things. So anyway,
But if they seem to be not treating one of the districts fairly, it wouldn't be one district, it'd be 4 to be fighting them, wouldn't it? So we would have someone to fight along with us. Because if they weren't treating us fairly, it would be fairly obvious they wouldn't be treating, say, Burnley fairly either.
yeah, but Burnley will be in a worse situation because at least in Pendle, everywhere, he says, probably finding that there's one bit that isn't. Everywhere in Pendle is parished to some extent. So, Barlick's got a town council, so Zeerby, Blaneshire Bridge, etc., all the way through, and Nelson and Briarfield have town councils, Barrowford and everywhere. So they at least have a statutory body of some sort that will need to be consulted in things. And whatever the body is now called, of Association of Lancashire Parish Councils, etc., we'll have to take more seriously, it'll have to be much more vociferous than it probably has been.
I think we need to make sure that we speak up every time we have something to say.
Yes. But
If you bombard them with emails, they can't ignore you.
one of the points I was trying to
Forever.
make, and then I'll shut up before I get myself into trouble, is I am not sure if we were asked to take over a service now, I am not sure if we would get a better deal under the current situation as it is or under the new one. And I think we may very well get a better deal under the new one. I don't know. It's an unknown.
I suspect that we would probably get a better deal under the new.
Well, I suspect that, but I have no proof of it one way or other.
No.
Proofs it's putting into it.
It is.
It's entirely if the current districts, boroughs want to get rid of something quick, or when the new body is formed, they find they've got, I don't know how many parks there are, but well, we haven't got one that's owned by them, but playing fields will multiply. So it may be that they want to devolve them more quickly because there's just too many of them.
You might get a better deal. I don't know.
There's too many of them to cope with. So, and until they may go the other way and be much more dictatorial and no, it's ours, you're not having it.
That's coming back to the risk, isn't it? It could be better, it could be worse. It's an unknown, we don't know.
Depends on what percentage really small.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Obviously,
But we're going to have to fight his own corner, and we're not going to have to put ourselves in a position where we're going to let them. We're not going to be able to get kicked from pillar to post and one thing and another. We'll have to stand as ground and get the best deal we can.
Right. Possibly.
Yeah. So this has to be referred to full council, doesn't it?
It does.
Chair, I'll propose that we refer it to the full council. That is.
I mean, to be honest, I have in some of them, or where I've thought that it's appropriate, I have decreased the risk in the current section, as you know, obviously.
The fact is, it's still wrong.
No, it is. Depends who's doing it as well, I suppose.
Yeah, it depends how you look at risks, because if something's run smoothly for X number of years, the more years it's run smoothly, the more risk there is that at some point in future it's going to go wrong. So the risk could be greater if you've had a few years that's been successful and nothing's gone wrong, because sooner or later something will go wrong. It always does. So can we? Who's moving it? Seconded? Yeah. Those in favour? Reserves and Treasury Management Policy. Number 9. Oh, there's a lot of yellow on this one.
This is mainly because I've had a change of heart on the amount of general reserves that I think we should hold. Previously, I think in Colin's days as well, it was set at 4 months. But considering the amount that we do now, and the level of preset that we have now, I think we need, and the rate that we spend as well. Obviously things are happening very quickly, more quickly than they used to. So I think it'd be more prudent to hold more general reserve. However, in that, I have actually lessened the amount of earmark reserves that I think we should have. But it still comes out at around 10 months in total. The recommendation is between 3 and 12, but I think now we're in a position where we should hold more reserves to cover any eventualities.
Well, sometimes the earmark ones can be a bit of a rod for your own back, because you tie them down, and if something else crops up with the problem,
Then you
you
can't.
tie it down and you can't use it. If the general reserves, you can move them about and use them for different things, can't you? But if they're earmark ones, you know, it's, say you have an earmark reserve for Alkincox Park, for instance, and it were a big one, and something went wrong with bush shelters, you can't use it for that. Whereas if it were a general reserve, you can divert it to where it's needed. I think you probably need as much reserves in total, but I think we want less of it tied down.
Yeah. So which is what I've suggested.
Yeah.
Less earmark, more general.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
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 At the end of the day, if it comes to A-Lads A, we can have a special meeting and say, right, I don't know, the roof's blown off or
Yeah.
something.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
we've
so
got all
we'll
these
take that
reserves.
yeah.
We can shuffle them around if
Yeah,
needs
but
be.
it's a major thing in the sense to move earmark reserves.
yeah.
We've got to take it back to full council, so you can't do anything in a hurry, can you? But if they weren't tied down and it were just a reserve, you can move it about a bit. Yeah. Whilst we're talking about this one, the amount you've mentioned about maybe having to draw down until Pendle's first instalment comes, would we be better with one reserve pot being one with a no notice account? One with interest, but one with no notice rather than 30 days. Then we can always get it quick if we need it.
Well, the idea is around the investment side, isn't it? Because obviously the only reason why we put it in a
Yes.
32-day account is to get a higher interest rate.
But how much do we get on the 30-day one?
It's not as much as the other two,
No,
which is why I suggest taking it from there rather
Yeah.
than the other two accounts. Obviously, we want to try and earn as much interest as possible.
Yeah.
But I think as it stands currently, we have enough time to honour the 32 days anyway. It's not, it wouldn't be an issue because we will always, coming up to the year end, we're always going to be more conscious of cash flow. So it's always going to be looked at, and to give the 32 days notice is not really that much of an issue.
I'm happy
So
to
I
leave
would
it,
say-
it is, if you think it's if you think it's manageable, I'm happy to leave it as it is. I just didn't want us to be in a position where we'd to give 30 days if we needed it in 20 or something like that, for some of money, that's all.
I mean, actually, I don't know if the Unity is same day. I think that might be as well, actually.
The CCLA is instant. I think
That's
the
instant.
unit is just a few days, and then there's a 32.
And then
so-
there's so we do have options if we
Right.
needed to.
Yeah.
I would rather not take it from the public sector deposit fund, as that currently gives the highest
Yeah,
interest
it
rate.
does.
But the one at the Unity, I think, is about possibly 3 working days or something like that.
Right,
Um,
yeah, so that's all right then.
yeah.
Yeah, that's all right, it's fine. Are there any more of the yellow ones that we need to be aware of? No?
There's only because there's been, like, the Good Counsellor's Guide to Finance, they've just brought a new one out, so that's changed. The levels of expected reserves. Couple of things, obviously with the way that we treat the reserves, the Blues contingency. Obviously, I've stated that we really don't want to be building that up to a higher value because we want to be investing less in the festival. The bad debt provision, I put maintain at 4% of income. It was at 5%, I think, but I've reduced that. Yeah, things about re-adding the CCTV. And obviously we currently don't have an Alkin Coats Park reserve either because we've used all that. So that would be something that we need to put back in. But I'm guessing we can do that from the contingency element that we introduced this time. Other than that, obviously the receipt of precept is now quarterly, so we don't have an option to invest that like we did previously. So that's the other changes that have been made. Other than that, I think that's it.
Yeah, normally we would have got the precept money, so we'd have had £1 million. We would have put it in an investment pot, and halfway through the year, we would still have had £500,000 left in it. So we would have been drawing interest on that all the year, and now Pendle's doing it. That's why I think they ought to be paying us up front like they promised, especially when they're making all that interest out of it.
Think about it. It's strange they didn't think of it before,
Well,
because they've been missing a trick all this time.
Well, I suppose it's a bigger trick as the precepts have gone higher, isn't it? Yeah. But it is where we're losing out on interest income. Because on average, we would have had £500,000 investment account all year because we'd have started off with a million and then tailing off to nothing towards the end of the year. So on average, it would have been drawing interest on £500,000. which is a lot of money.
Can earn a substantial amount.
Yeah. Yeah. So is someone going to move that we recommend it to full council?
No, I don't think. Trying to get any money from Pendle is a struggle. Did we get a proposal for the reserves? Yeah.
Is it seconded? Those in favour? Thank you. Item 10, which is the one that Gina sent late because there's been all sorts of problems and struggles trying to find the info. We can either discuss it now, or should we send it to everyone on FES, including everyone here and the two that are missing, and say, if we don't hear anything to the contrary before Wednesday of next week, that we forward it to full council to make the decision.
I will just add next. It's the 12th. Yeah, so next Wednesday is when I will need to.
That's when agenda goes
Send
out
the
for
agenda
full
out.
council.
I only had a quick glance at it.
Right. Yeah.
So the 18th, that's the day.
Yes.
Yeah, it's on 18. Yeah.
I will add though, as Steve reminded me, under the procedures section, I do need to add in a paragraph about stock write-off, because I forgot to do that. So that will need adding in.
Well, yeah, it depends what stock includes, don't it? Because stock could include some barrels of beer or something that went off, couldn't it? So you could be writing it off, couldn't you?
Yes.
Yeah.
So we need to put some procedures in place, obviously, as to
Yeah.
how stock is written off and
It's
who approves,
It's-
etc.
probably not just stock, is it? Because if I'm not suggesting we would write off that desk, but you know, do you count the television as stock, for instance?
Assets, yeah,
That's-
obviously.
that's an asset, though, isn't it?
Yeah, but I think
Yeah.
possibly we need an asset. Yeah,
We do have an asset register,
and is there?
but we don't have a policy on.
With the, yeah, that's what I'm getting at. We need a policy so
We
that
will need a policy on that as well.
something can't then just disappear
Write-offs in general.
because we thought,
Yeah.
and write-offs over whatever
Or
go up the.
could we, well, not cut a corner, but could we save ourselves time in future by making this the stock and asset policy and incorporate them into one, so there's only one policy to do every year?
That might be a bit confusing.
We'll complicate it and make it
Yeah, yeah.
quite a big
Right,
document.
right,
Yeah, the rubber- it'd be a bit cumbersome.
yeah,
Having been involved in such things in a past iteration, to use the word that's everybody's using at the moment, you've got to keep them separate, and a lot of assets you can just say, oh, it's written off because it ran out of ink. I can't think of it, but there are little assets which are they're not neither here nor there, but they're of such a low value that
They're not on the asset register.
you're replacing things all the time. But you know, I would say that is the size of thing that
Yes.
value that starts to become. We need to know that it has broken down. It is no good, and somebody's not watching UHD football from Europe on it.
but it could eventually be written off because it could be past its sell by date and no longer of any use, couldn't it? And that can apply to any asset.
The SPA system.
Mm.
Yeah.
Mm. So are we saying apart from you needing to add something into this one, we also need another one
Yes.
that we haven't got?
Well, I think we can put that down as items for a future agenda.
Yeah, yeah.
So, asset policy. I'll have a look and see what other councils have. Obviously, we'll have a look from there.
I know Together Housing have a policy which is asset write-off and replacement policy. I know they have one of them,
Yes, so that might
which
be
is
something
replacement
to-
and write-off. Because you either replace it if you can't do without it, so you need something to replace it, or you write it off because you don't do that anymore, don't you?
This, I doubt, well, I don't- we might have machinery that is refurb or replace or, I'm trying to think, have we got a mowing machine somewhere?
We have, yes.
Yeah, so, you know,
Trimmers and
that,
things like that.
that's the other thing that, are they, do we have them for so long and then automatically replace them? Do we lease them so that somebody else carries that risk?
I think in general, we service them every year, and then if we fail a service, then you replace them.
But there might
Or-
someday become a situation where you can no longer get parts for it, or things
Well,
like that.
yeah, things like that, yeah, become obsolete.
So it's got to be either get rid of it and do it out, or replace, hasn't it?
Right. Do we have a seconder for this policy?
Yeah, those in favour? Item 11, overtime policy. But we've done that not long since, or is it a year since?
No, this is a different one. Because we never had a written policy.
Right,
Yeah, but then I changed it to additional hours because it also includes time off in lieu and flexi time. Yeah. I don't know if you've had a chance to read it.
I've had a quick scan through and on page 5, time off in lieu. The last bit of when they have requested it's superfluous.
It's what?
So you don't need it.
Don't need it.
Line manager expected to allow staff. Da, 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 da. However, it will not always be possible to allow staff to take the time off.
When they have requested it. All right.
That time off, perhaps it should be, or the requested.
That's
time.
what it means, but they've requested it for a certain day. You
Yes,
might not be
well-
allowed to allow that day.
I think. Then what it needs is to take the requested time off.
Right. Okay.
And there was another one as well, but. Oh right, yeah. Sorry, page 4.
Uh-huh.
no.
It just authorization from a senior officer must either be.
Where
just-
are you looking? Sorry.
Sorry, last paragraph, operational staff. The second paragraph,
Authorize it. Right. Yeah.
you don't need the either. Officer must be pre-approved. If this is not possible, sort as soon as reasonably.
Oh, right. Okay. Yeah.
It's not either or, because people will then be saying, we're doing the exception, right?
Right.
The
Okay.
exception will become the rule if you.
That's all right.
Hmm.
Anything else?
Well, when you say located in reception, does that mean in their office?
Yes, in the, where the reception is, and it will be in that often. It's actually behind me.
In Gailey's
Head.
office.
Yeah, no,
Yeah,
but that's why I was wondering whether we needed in reception or just stop it at the physical version.
Oh, right. I was just stating where it
Yeah,
is.
well, yeah. But I think if that's the case, that should be in brackets as well, so you'd have all these brackets floating about. Leave it as it is, wait for somebody else.
no doubt they will.
Yeah.
Oh, yes, oh, yeah. And I've highlighted some of page 6. So, oh, I think the endeavour to keep, sorry, page 7, responsibilities. I should just say all employees must keep. Yeah, never mind
Okay.
endeavour to keep. Keep and get rid of should the need arise. Seek approval for additional hours leave in a timely manner.
Okay, yeah.
That was it. I did-
Yeah.
Other than that, yeah, I agree with all that. Because it's
Obviously-
making sure that we're keeping track of it rather than somebody coming and saying, not that they would, I don't think, but I worked 60 hours this week and
Yeah.
you owe me 12 weeks. At least when it's written down, people,
Yes.
Yeah.
One thing that is additional in there, really, that we haven't spoke about is the unsociable hours.
What number is that?
It'll be under rates.
Those four.
Right.
Full-time,
Yeah.
paragraph.
So we're saying that if we're expecting people to work unsociable hours, that we will pay them at time and a half rather than just time.
yeah,
Unsociable hours being before 7 o'clock in the morning and after 11 o'clock at night, basically. Apart
Yeah.
from the blues, I've said the blues is an exception because of the nature of the event. It is,
That's
entertainment and then-
classification, yeah.
yeah, so that has its own classification. Because unsociable hours will be after 2 o'clock
yeah,
in the morning.
yeah, no,
So as long as you're happy with that.
well, yeah, I don't take that as,
Yeah, if somebody gets rung up at 3 o'clock in the morning because there's some sort of emergency, you can't expect them to do it for normal time, can you?
and presumably if they wanted that in toil, do you do that straight hour for hour or,
If they wanted it in toil, then we would,
so if they did an hour, they'd get an hour and a half toil?
yes.
Yeah.
I'd do it same.
No,
Do I need to put that in
Yeah.
policy?
Because
no, I was just,
sometimes that's to our advantage, because sometimes, depending on what time of year it is,
oh, yeah,
we don't really want them to take the time off, do we?
No,
Because if it were a week before blues, for instance, we won't want them to take the time off, we want them to be here for blues, won't we?
Yeah. no, I mean, the that rate is
yeah.
the common thing, the common way to do it.
Okay, so do we have a,
I'll move with,
Those in favour? Right,
it was only you and me.
Oh, yeah. Oh, hang on, Mike has asked to go more as well.
Oh,
items for future months,
no, you missed
agenda,
town hall maintenance.
or town hall
Oh,
maintenance
yes,
then.
town hall.
Well,
chamber clock, things like that.
She got divided up.
could be somebody's job to wind it up every week, couldn't it?
Yeah,
Why not?
but apparently it's got to change some settings or something now that it's
It's got to do the balance wheels.
change of temperature. or
Oh,
something. I
the
don't know.
temperature dependent,
Right.
and you got to have different. I was telling you about down hall,
Yeah,
man,
yeah,
where he wants different weights on winter and summer and things like that. I suppose things expand and
Well,
shrink, and it
yeah, well,
alters
they do,
stuff, doesn't
yeah.
it?
So the heating, as you can feel,
Working well.
has been fixed. So they fixed the
Yeah,
damaged pipe that we had, and obviously that was
But
under
but it's still not efficient.
to
is
the
it?
annex. No,
No.
it's still not efficient, and
That
it's not going to
that
be.
needs addressing.
It's not going to be efficient till we change the boilers.
No, it's not. So I think that needs addressing. Because if we had an A plus boiler feeding the network of pipes, it'd cost less money to heat the water up to put in the pipes than it's currently doing, wouldn't it? So
Yeah, yeah.
it's got to be a saving.
Oh, yeah.
And I would think over time, we should get a significant amount of the money back in the difference in gas costs. Over a few years, we should get some benefit back. So it's probably beneficial to do it. But we can't do it without a loan.
No,
No, I'm still waiting for some prices. We've got a few people requoting for the boilers. So I'm waiting on prices.
just going slightly off at a small tangent. We know that the current pipes are, well, goodness knows when they were probably put in at the beginning when the thing was built, were they? I don't know.
I wouldn't have thought so because there's a chimney breast there and there's a chimney up on the roof.
Oh, yeah.
Chimney breast here.
Yeah.
My guess is there was a fireplace at that end and a fireplace at this end. And all the rooms, even down in cellar, have a fireplace, don't they?
I think, yeah, well,
Well, most of the rooms, even down
Yeah,
in
but
cellar,
yeah.
have a fireplace. My guess is there were about 20 fireplaces in this building and no central heating system.
But what I was thinking of, rather than at some point ripping them all out and putting new in, if we just,
we have been told that would cost in the region of £1.5 to £2 million.
oh yeah, but to put new in and sort of somehow and somehow disguise them.
Would probably be difficult, isn't it?
It was just a thought as you mentioned boilers, and I was looking at that radiator, and just struck me as if that could be blocked off at the relevant places, drained and just left alone. Something.
What you mean, it like boarded over us?
Well, just yeah. I mean, you know.
Obviously, you don't need that many radiators
Well,
in this room.
you know, it may be worth just
Well,
But they were saying that with new boilers, the way the water system works, it works in zones. So certain boilers feed certain zones, and they've said what you can do is you can set your temperature for each zone, and do it that way. So that would probably lead to savings as well.
it would still be inefficient, but less inefficient.
Less inefficient because you're using it in a more
We're using
efficient
it.
way,
Yeah, well, yeah, well, yeah.
and you've got more efficient boilers.
Well, there's
It-
yeah,
there's no point having radiator. So in some offices, they've got radiator starts.
yes.
Now, there's no point in having a radiator start because it's no good having 3-inch pipe running through office, feeding radiators with a radiator start on because the pipe work is still having hot water running around
Well,
it, even when
the-
radiators turned
The
off.
pipe work would be hotter
The
than
pipe
So
will be,
radiator.
yeah.
what we need I think,
Is
is to ask them what the cost would be to zone it properly and put some electronic valves in so that when temperature is reached, it can electronically knock
Shut
the
it
whole
off.
of that section off rather than just the radiator stats. For argument's sake, in here, well, there ain't radiator stats in here, but there is in some offices. And if you had a valve on, an electronic valve on it, that when it got to temperature, it knocked the whole circuit off. It would stop the hot water circulating through the water pipes as well, wouldn't it?
yeah, to
Rather
start
than just the radiator.
Well, essentially, that's what I think they were saying that we could do.
Yeah.
give it a whirl.
And if we're not using part of the building,
Then we
and if
just
we're on zones with
knock it off.
electronic valves, we
Turn
could
it
say,
off.
well, it only needs to be
Ticking
15
over.
degrees in there or 10
Frost.
degrees because we're not using it and we could knock temperature down in there, couldn't we? Whereas as it is now, we have to have it all the same temperature, haven't we?
Yeah, can have, yeah. No, that's the thing to do, and that's the cheapest alternative
It is, yeah.
to make it, say, less inefficient.
Although certain councillors would say that we should be looking at redoing boards.
Yeah.
that kind of
Yeah, fine, but we haven't got the money
Well,
to do that. And anyway, Mr. Trump says drill, drill, drill.
thing.
You weren't just thinking that then.
But initially, when they had fires, if they were using this room, they'd have fire on in here, wouldn't they? Both ends. And all these other rooms along front rooms downstairs, they probably wouldn't have had fire on if they weren't using them, would they? Well, we can do similar with the gas heating, can't we? And not have the pipes going above like a frostat sort of temperature when we're not using it, and turn it on when we are.
That was for the scheme that they were running at the time. I will say though that I have been put in contact with someone who was working with various different schemes who has offered to come into the town hall to give us some advice on what's best to do with building. To
You're taking its heritage away.
oh yeah.
No, you can't. No, I know. Well, you could put 2 fans up there to send it back down, couldn't you? Well, I'll bet you if you got a ladder now and you climbed up there, it's 5 or 6 degrees warmer up there than it is down here. So and there's nobody up there getting benefit from it, but if you had 2 ceiling fans up there, it'd send it back down, wouldn't it? Well, do you not think it'd be warmer down here if we sent the air back down?
Do you put one that's big enough for?
Yeah, but they don't need to run very fast just to disturb air to send it down.
Do you reckon they had a fan in the middle?
But it's the same if you do something to your house, isn't it? If you say you're painting your ceiling and you stand on a buffet to get up to the ceiling, it's a lot warmer up there than it is down at the ground level. Yeah, it doesn't need much, does it, to disturb air to send it down?
But yeah, I thought I would
Well-
contact the man and arrange for him to come and visit, and then at least we know what options we have.
Is it worth asking him to have a look what he thinks we need, and then to ask him to come back and explain to some of us what he suggests?
Yeah, we could do that. If, yeah.
Our meaning more than just some officers. Do we want to give us a rough idea what we need as well?
I think
Yeah.
he's worked on these. He
It's
said that the scheme that they're running at the moment has ended. However, he said he was happy to come
Yeah.
and have a look and give his advice.
But if he could come and look and see what we need and then come back and do a presentation or something, what he recommends we should have, then he can come up with some options, can't he? What I don't think it's worth doing is doing a half job. I think he wants doing right. Well, yeah. Because now it's got like, what were it, £4,000 a month?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's getting ridiculous, isn't it? So your bad months, sort of November, December, January,
So obviously the
February. For
winter
them 4
months,
months,
it's
you're
been very
looking at
cold.
£16,000, aren't you?
Yeah,
Which is ridiculous for gas, isn't it?
it's an astronomical. Yeah.
We could get you all a heated spacesuit for less than that. Leave you all in downstairs when you're working. Because we would have to consult, wouldn't we, to get the loan?
Yes.
Yes. And we can't consult till we know roughly what we want.
No.
And if we're not careful, we'll still be talking. I know it's only March, but
It's still,
not
it does
careful-
need to be done.
Yes, it
next
does,
financial year.
because it wants doing before heating needs putting back on September, October, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It needs to be done by then. And getting loan and everything, it all takes time, doesn't it? So
It does.
it'd be better if it could come and have a look in the next few weeks, wouldn't it?
I will contact him. Another thing that I will say with town hall maintenance is we need to replace the floor in the function room. The function room downstairs. Basically the floor that was in, to be honest, we never liked it anyway. But it's due to the way it's been installed and it has something underneath it, that when you mop it or when you clean it, it has this awful smell. Yes, but there's a lot of damage on it as well, caused by various different things. So we were looking at quotes for a different floor that would be easier to clean, and they're going to properly install it so that water can't get underneath it or and that kind of thing. Well, they didn't. Yeah, whoever's looked at this time said whoever put that floor in didn't do a very good job.
Well, we all know who sorted the floor out, but
So, but I think we've had quotes. I think it's going to be about £8,000.
I seem to remember that some of that floor. Yeah, you were here then, weren't you?
Yeah.
Yeah, I seem to remember that some of that floor was a bit of a bodge up because it weren't level. And in places, to bring it all up level before they put the floor down, it was bodged up, leveled it up, putting like plywood on it, weren't it? Can you remember? Well, it was because where walls had been knocked down, things weren't level, were they?
It was something, yeah.
And it was bodged up with like,
We were told that
they were like sheets of marine plywood sort of stuff. You know what I mean?
every time
Oh, I know. Yeah,
they were, what's whatever.
but
Yeah.
I recall that neither me or Naomi wanted that floor. We didn't think it was suitable.
Well, it was over as well. I say,
Well, it's too light for a start. It shows up
Well-
every mark.
Michael
Anyway.
weren't here then, but There were a lot of, there were different walls downstairs and like, there were more rooms, Michael. And in lots of places, we knocked a wall out to make it into a big open space and floor in both the rooms weren't level. You
Was it
took the
different
wall
levels?
away and there were a gap, so you had to fill it in, but they weren't level. They were a bit like that to one another anyway. And it were a bit of a bodge up leveling everything up.
Working just replacing floor. It was certainly different. Was it the wall? No. They were obviously gone.
Yeah. And there were a corridor going through it as well that we took out. And you ended up with two different floors in different rooms. So you took the wall out, so you'd think you could just sort of concrete across the joint where you took the wall out and it were level. But it weren't, floors weren't level we wanted. Ideally, the whole floor should have been skimmed. No, but it were enough to notice it, yes. If you hadn't have done it, you would have ended up with a flooring that were put down cracking. And it was.
I don't know.
But if the panels start flexing, then then it starts all cracking, doesn't it?
Yeah, no. It certainly hasn't lasted forever. I'm trying to think now. We had a nickname for him. I'm not gonna say what that is, but I can't remember what it's called. Since 2019. I started in 2019. And I think it was
It was after we took control of it. But it had all been
because
it had all been
Leroy was there at the
organised and signed off before we took over, but it were after when it finished. Yeah, it had all been decided in 1718, but in reality, by the time it were finished, it were in a year later, weren't it?
Yeah, because didn't Citizens Advice used to be down there? Oh, they're in that office. But there was something in there. Was it council tax? It was council tax. Yeah.
They were more or less where Gailey sits now, but Citizens Advice.
Right. Yeah.
There were a door turned off before you got to the door. Yeah, that door, it was that door. Yeah. Yeah, there were two offices there because that first door went into where Citizens Advice were, and then there were another office which is where Nathan sits that went through other door.
Yeah, so it's private. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, how
right,
you can now
yes, yeah.
bypass the door by going through reception. You couldn't before, could you? No, it was walled off.
I don't think there's anything else to bring up under town hall maintenance. Do we have to?
I thought it were only until dinner time, fools things.
Yeah, it is only till dinner time.
Yeah, it is. It's only till 12 o'clock, isn't it? You can only April Fool somebody till 12 o'clock. Yeah, if we had it at 8, it'd mess everything up, won't it? Because it'll push. It'll push. Yeah, but it would push it. It'll push thing back to 22nd, won't it?
It's the 20th.
6 weeks.
Yeah, it's only just over a week before election day, ain't it? It's Easter, because Easter's late, ain't it, this time? And election's early, because it's off first.
Yeah. It's expected, but.
Yeah.
I should know that.
So if there's nothing else for downhole maintenance, what what is there then for items for a future month's agenda?
Well, that's it, that's-
Well, we've got the asset write-off and replacement policy or something similar.
Yeah.
Uh,
And the thing to do with eating whenever you've got all the info.
Eating, yeah. Um, I did want to bring forward at some point as well an expenses policy. Just to-
Thought we had one.
No, I don't think we ever officially did it. We were going to.
Uh,
So
who's been finding all these, Kate?
yeah, yeah.
Well, I suppose she's right, because if you don't tend to get into trouble for doing things wrong if you've got a policy for it, because at least you've got a plan then, haven't you? Well, yeah, but if you've got a plan, you're halfway there, aren't you? So I suppose, yeah, she's right.
We do.
Oh,
We have to have by law.
Yeah.
But yes, yes, we do
Yeah.
have.
Yeah,
that's right.
that comes into having a designated person for winding clock up, doesn't it? Because you can't have a designated person winding clock up when they're building on their own in case they fall off steps, can you? So
It'd have to
we've
be
got to have
risk,
a plan for doing it, haven't
we
we?
have to have a risk assessment for that.
I mean, I've no doubt Billy would wind it up, but somebody needs to be here with Billy if she does wind it up.
Ladder work always involves two people.
Well, yeah, if you're working on a ladder, you've got to have two of you, even if the second one is only there to pick the bits up, but there's got to have somebody there, haven't you? I mean, years since, such as window cleaners, used to put a ladder up against your house and run up it, clean your windows and come back down. But legally now, from an health and safety point of view, they aren't allowed to go up a ladder unless somebody's holding the bottom of it.
Yeah, I saw something on, I don't know if it was Facebook or Instagram recently, or if it was Comtalk, I don't know, but someone had put something on that this guy was using a ladder. And he was like, I can't believe he's doing this. What's he doing? What's he doing? And he fell. So this guy videoed it. And this guy using this ladder to prop himself up to paint his window or something. And yeah. Speaking of ladders, it just pops into my head.
They'll do it. We saw one guy a couple of weeks in, well, it's a couple of months now anyway, Chris's across the road, cleaning gutters out. He went up a ladder at front of the house, no cat ladder. He cleaned gutter out. He didn't take his ladder round back. He walked up slates over bridge and down other side with a brush and shovel and did them. Couldn't believe it.
Alright.
Before they did it. Yeah, two hours. Well, you know, they're not.
Yeah.
Just by.
And they're leaning against a plastic gutter anyway, which will squash when you get up there with your weight on it anyway. So I don't think there is anything
Is there
else.
anything
Nick,
else for?
unless
agenda?
something crops up. I don't think. Yeah.
Secret and private.
Or can we remove the public that are not here and switch off the live streaming?
Are we doing the date and time of next meeting?
Yeah, 1st of April.